Welcome back, everyone. Today we are doing our second travel guide, and this is a place you've probably never heard of. At least I had never heard of it before. It is the Gorges du Verdon. Right next to it is a little town, a hamlet called Moustiers-Sainte-Marie, which Americans would probably pronounce the name Moustiers-Sainte-Marie. That's how it's spelled. But it is this beautiful little town that maybe you saw the little reel that we post on Instagram, had like 8-9 million views on it. This is just a magical little place.
It really is magical. I mean, this is the type of place that I dreamt about when thinking about we're moving to France. We get to go on these amazing weekend getaways. This was like, it topped everything I could have imagined.
But before we dive into that, I have two little thoughts about like France life that I want to talk about. These are little things. I have a little, I call them Nice walking notes that I have a little, just things, little weird thoughts that come into your head. And I think because if there's times in life where you'll be inspired, and I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert talks about how like she believes there's like ideas basically like floating through the ether, and they kind of hit you. And I think also just when you get into such different circumstances, big changes in life, getting married, having a kid, moving to another country, all these things, like then all of a sudden your body and your mind is shaken up, and so that's when you have these. I see that as like amazingly creative thoughts. And so I try to capture these. So these are just two. I thought they're interesting. Maybe they're not. Maybe they don't make sense. First one. So picture yourself, we're at the market and you see the people painting, and at the market in Nice, they actually are like painting in front of you. And so you get to see the art and the artist live. And I kind of thought that is a great example of France versus America. Whereas I wrote down watching life happen and being a part of it versus trying to buy life. And that's how I saw like France is that, whereas Americans like so much consumerism. We're trying to buy this authenticity. Whereas sometimes when you're here in Europe and France, you can actually just be a part of that authenticity as it is.
We're trying to buy it in the States and we're trying to live it here.
Yes.
I think that's a really great observation. I would agree. Well, the French are very much about experience. We talk about that, restaurants, McDonald's, for example.
McDo, we can't wait to do the McDo experience. Supposedly McDonald's is like so much better. So we'd have to do a full episode on that.
Yeah, we will. We'll save that. But basically, in summation, McDonald's, McDo here, it's you eat in the restaurant. It's a nice dining experience. It's clean because it's supposed to be an experience. It's not a grab and go culture at all. So even fast food is an experience.
Yes. So there's that whole thought. I
love that.
And then the other thing is, I realized trying to learn a city, it's not a task. Like, so basically I looked at like, as we get into Nice and we start to learn about it, and you get to learn about, how you shop, what grocery stores you go to, what's the best butcher, what are the restaurants. And so often in life, we just want to check a box and move on. But to truly learn a city is not a task you finish, but a journey you go on. And I think that's something you have to do everywhere in life. It doesn't matter where you live. Maybe it's your local town that you think you know everything. Step outside and try some other things because you might get to learn a little bit more about it.
I think that's beautiful to take into everyday life because we always work off of a checklist. I think especially as parents, you're like, I have to do this, and this before I can do anything. Or you're just so worried about getting dinner on the table that you forget to enjoy the park and the experience that you're in right then. I think it's something you could bring into your everyday and especially into travels.
Oh, I try to frame it. It's hard with a toddler all the time with Scotland. It's like, it's not the destination. Even if we're trying to just go to the park, which usually she loves, but sometimes it's hard to get them out the door. And it's like, it's okay. This is just the process. We'll be okay if we only get 10 minutes at the park, but it's still tough. So
I love these walking musings. Well, something happens when you walk. You get into a flow state, ideas, not just a quote unquote flow state, but like actual ideas flowing. And that's wonderful that you make the notes because I feel like oftentimes I'm like, I'll remember that. And then the idea just goes and flutters into the ether.
Yeah, I haven't always done it, but yeah, I try to now.
That's really nice that you do that, especially during this time to look back on.
Yeah. So, all right.
I love that.
Talk about Moustiers?
Moustiers. Well, we planned this trip to Moustiers for a very special reason. It's our man, Scott's birthday.
That's right.
Whoop, whoop. He's a fall baby. So we wanted to go to an epic adventure spot. And there's a lot of great adventures in southern France and Europe overall, but he loves to climb. He loves to be outdoors. So I wanted to find a place that we could get outdoors, but also had a little bit of extra something special.
This is basically like the birthplace of sport climbing.
And we didn't get to climb.
And we didn't go climbing. Spoiler alert, we didn't go climbing.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, but it was an idea. Like, maybe we'll get to go.
Yeah, so
with a toddler.
The Gorges du Verdon is known as the Grand Canyon of France, and it has the most beautiful teal water that I've ever seen on these like super steep valleys, and it's just absolutely stunning.
You might have seen it on Instagram. It's like this. Yeah, it's picture perfect. It really is.
2 hours from Nice. It's an hour and a half from Marseille. 2 hours.
It's not even an hour and a half from Marseille. It's closer.
Okay.
To being in Provence.
So it's in Provence, which is home of rosé and wines. But it's how was it? How did you even find out about it?
So I have this running list of places I want to go, and as I learn about more parts of France, read about it in Travel and Leisure or Condé Nast Traveler. I don't remember exactly where I learned about this, but I have this map on my phone, just Google Maps. And on that map, every time I learn about something that I want to go to, I type it into my Google Map and I put it in the want to go file with a little green flag, and I type under why I want to go there. And Moustiers-Sainte-Marie is one of the most beautiful villages in France. It's a category that
it's actually rated, not just us saying it. It's actually
I'm not saying it's one of the most beautiful villages. There is an entire organization called Les Plus Beaux Villages de France, something like that. So the most beautiful villages in France, and it's you can go online and see these beautiful villages. We've been to some of them before, like Gorges and Saint-Emilion, and there's just something so special. And there are these small towns that, they're not these big cities. It's not a Nice, it's not a Paris. It's off the beaten path. There are these hamlets, and they're so special. And so I think if you want to guide yourself around France, that's a great place to start. If you don't know where to go to the most beautiful villages in France and look at all of those villages and go from there.
So when we got to Moustiers-Sainte-Marie, what was amazing is that our Airbnb said free parking, and there was some discussions back and forth with the owner about how we might be getting into his car he would drive us there. So we're a little confused, and we get in and he tells us that basically the streets are too narrow. You could drive your car, but you'll probably scratch it. And so he's very, very lovely Airbnb host. We get into his car, and it's a tiny European car. We all squeeze in there. And like the clowns we are, he drives us up. And I'm very glad he did, because those roads were very, very small.
Very narrow.
But
to answer your initial question before, I wanted something that combined adventure and one of these beautiful villages. So it was like, I don't just want to stay, I don't just want to go camping by the Grand Canyon. I mean, I say that like, that would be amazing. But I was like, we're in France. Is there somewhere nearby that we could stay that's really special? So Moustiers has an amazing Michelin star restaurant in there. We're huge foodies, and it's one of these most beautiful villages. Plus, it's one of the closest villages to the Verdon Gorge, the Gorges du Verdon. In anglicized words would be the Verdon Gorge. So I thought this is best of both worlds. This is like right up Scott's alley.
Yeah.
It's fine dining, a cute town, and adventure.
Hiking.
Yeah.
Yes. And you had the climbing. I just didn't have someone to climb with. That's the only bummer.
Yeah.
So
we'll about that next time.
Well, and I can't wait to talk about the Michelin star dining with a toddler. But first, let's talk about the village.
Yes.
So Colette wrote this out. This is beautiful. She said, you get out of the car, and Moustiers hits you right in the gut. A breathtaking medieval village set against towering limestone cliffs, crowned by a golden star that dangles from a chain, hung high between the two mountains. And legend has it that a knight returning from the Crusades. No. The legend. You have the legend wrong, actually. I've done a lot of research. Yes, I've done a lot of research for this. Legend has it that a knight promised to hang the star. He was held prisoner. He promised to hang the star above the town he came from when he returned. But the legend is no one knows how the star actually got there. That's the legend. Now, the most recent
And
star.
by the way, the star is really, there's a star hanging
star.
in between two cliffs.
It's like a 200, 200 or 300 long chain that holds up this like 4 foot in length golden star.
And
above
they light
these
it at night.
And they light it at night. It's beautiful. So yes, that's the legend of the star. No one knows how the first one got there. The most recent one was actually hung by helicopter, something like I think it was like 50 years ago. No, maybe it's 10 years ago. Sorry, yeah, I've done a lot of research for a reel, so that's why I know so much about this silly star. So, go on. Yeah, I'll let you take it from there as I talk so much about that.
Well, the trick here is to take it slow in Moustiers. Drink in the atmosphere. And if you're pregnant like me, have a mocktail. Chat with the locals if you can. Grab an espresso at one of the tiny cafes that seem like they've been there forever. The sound of trickling water from ancient fountains is everywhere. It's peaceful. You'll want to sit in, take it all in, and let your mind wander. And when we're talking about drinking, can we get into that place that we got to go to, the bar?
The beer that we thought was beer, but it wasn't beer.
It was.
Well, but I'll talk about the beer. But you said your words, the trickling water. It's trickling water and rushing water.
Yes, you have both.
So there are plenty of fountains, natural fountains running around, because there's a river that just waterfalls rush right through the center of town, and you have all these fountains, the trickling ones, that kind of spread out throughout the town. The town's really small. You can walk across it within like 10, 15 minutes. But yeah, just those, I don't even know what to call the little alleyways with all the little fountains that are just, it is such a magical sound to hear.
And it's a very walkable city, right? Like we parked the car, and other than to go, I say city, it's a tiny town. Other than to go out to the Verdon Gorge, we just walked, and we did a lot of walking there. But it's so easy to navigate. I mean, just a few tiny streets with restaurants and shops, and they're known for their pottery, their ceramics there. So you'll see ceramic shops everywhere, and it's so beautiful. And I did get a little spoon holder to cook with.
Yes.
Right?
So I was trying to look up the actual name of this brewery, if you could help me with that. So there's this brewery. We sat down, and it's just the most beautiful little spot, and everyone's sitting there having a beer, and we sit down, order one, and they basically had a amber and a blonde. Those are the two. And I got the amber, loved it, and I'm drinking it, and I'm thinking, this is a little different. Like, it just had a little bit of a different taste. And then we look at the name of the restaurant, we look at the actual beer, and we realize it's beer, but it's actually mead beer made from honey, from local honey, from Moustiers honey. So,
and they're also selling the local honey there. We bought some lavender honey. It's called Saveur et Nature. So, if I were to give it an American accent, savors et nature. We'll put it in the show notes, guys. Yeah. It's great. It's a little outdoor bar. You can grab honey. And then I bought the honey thinking, oh, well, this will be like my thing from the bar. But then it's raw honey, and I don't think I can eat raw honey. So womp womp. Save it for next year. But a great place. I mean, you got to drink beer with a view of the gorgeous mountains in Moustiers. It was like amazing.
And then after that, we went to probably one of your famous favorite restaurants ever. Colette absolutely loves truffles. And it felt a bit like a tourist trap, but also not. Like, it was gimmicky, but it was run by two locals. Mm-hmm. So I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
It was just everything was truffles. Truffle pizza, truffle risotto. And then on top of it, they put burrata stuffed with truffles. It was actually really good.
So good. It was rated really well on Google Maps. We were like, I don't care. It looks silly, but...
And you love truffles.
And I love truffles.
And you're pregnant, so...
And I'm pregnant, yeah. And the woman serving us was also pregnant.
She was very pregnant, yeah.
So I was able to ask her all the pregnant questions, like, can I eat this? Is this pasteurized? Blah, blah, blah. So she knew we could do it.
And speaking of more dining, we went to a famous Alain Ducasse Michelin star restaurant.
Alain Ducasse.
Oh, is that how you say his name?
Well, yeah.
So, Alain Ducasse.
In the French way, but I think in America we say Alain, right?
Okay. Alain Ducasse.
Alain Ducasse.
Alain Ducasse. Okay, most chefs struggle their entire lives just to get one Michelin star. And this guy is a hog. Back in 2012, he had 21 Michelin stars to his name and had the #1 restaurant in the entire world.
Wow.
Louis XV in...
Paris?
No. Monaco.
Oh, it's in Monaco?
It's in Monaco, yeah.
Oh, right down the
Three
street.
Michelin star restaurant, yes. And so this one's not a 3 Michelin star. This is a 1 Michelin star. La Bastide des Moustiers.
It's also a hotel.
It's also a hotel. And it is very much a farm-to-table restaurant. As we walked up, we were politely greeted by the local donkeys.
I forget their names. They were something so French.
They were very French names.
Yes.
It was more than just Pierre and Luc. It was like the name. It was like the French name of a lily petal or something.
I was like, I'm not going to remember that one.
Yeah.
But Scotland loved that too. That was very welcoming to the child. So we got to greet the farm first. We got to walk through where they're growing their actual vegetables and seasonings. And so we walked through, and then
all lit by the reflection of the mountain as the sun's setting. Basically, the sun reflecting off the mountain. Just the most beautiful light.
Yeah, the lighting was incredible. It was that Provence lighting. And then the donkeys came up and greeted us, and Scotland was like, I want to pet them. I'm like, I don't think we can do that, baby. And then we went to our dining experience. And at first, it looked like we were the only ones there. And
it felt like
in
it
this
the whole time.
Greenhouse section of the restaurant. We later found out that we were in a part of a section of the restaurant, but not the main room.
They hit us. They hit us because we had a toddler politely.
You have a child, go this way. I don't blame you. But they didn't have to. She wasn't loud at all. It was actually lovely.
Would you like to go into the details of it?
I can. So the restaurant is actually housed in a restored country inn surrounded by olive groves. And the setting is pure Provence paradise. The menu changes daily based on whatever fresh ingredients the local farmers and artisans have delivered that morning. Now, delivered, I mean from their actual garden outside and the local farm. So it's really, when we say farm to table, it's like you're at the farm, like you're living at the farm, like these are the local vegetables. Perhaps some duck is there as well, maybe trout caught from a local stream. Everything here speaks of the land and the season. It's an experience. And let's talk about not only an experience for the adults, but an experience for the child.
Scotland had the best chicken and pasta I've ever seen. Yeah. And what was lovely, if you're a parent and you have a toddler, the thing that you want first is your kid to get fed. Usually that's the thing you want first, because the last thing you want is you're eating the kids, especially when you're abroad, or even a nice restaurant, and they bring out the appetizers, and your kid's sitting there like, Mom, Dad, I want something to eat. And so you're trying to eat your appetizer while you're like, I don't really care about this. I just want to get them food. And it was lovely because they knew exactly what to do. They said, do you want us to bring her food out right away? We have a kids menu, and I just wanted to eat her dish.
I did eat her dish. It was my favorite part of the menu. I'm not even kidding.
It was amazing.
It was the best. The chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, that skin on the outside was so perfectly crisp. And the chicken itself was so juicy. And the pasta, they told us that the chef that night that made the pasta was from Italy, which is, just a couple hours away. And the pasta was so good.
So good.
Everything was amazing. And they brought it out on the silver platter. And
they coursed it at the table. So, this was also a meal. We did a 5-course tasty meal where, Disney showed up and Scotland had her dinner and a movie while we had a nice meal.
Yes. Moana helped us out that night.
Yes.
That way we can enjoy Scott's birthday meal in peace. And you got the wine pairing as well.
They didn't officially have a wine pairing. The sommelier just kind of brought out wines as he saw fit.
That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. So it was nice, and it was fun to talk to him, and yeah.
And I felt like we didn't take our time with things because we couldn't. You couldn't make a reservation until I believe it was 7. Scotland's bedtime is typically at 8, so we were like, all right, well, she'll go to bed a little late. And I think she went to bed an hour late, but we just enjoyed, and then we're like, okay, next course, please.
Yes.
And of course, I'm pregnant, so couldn't have the exact meal that you had, but I had a version of it.
Yeah. Bon cuit. Well done.
Bien cuit. Well done, parce que je suis enceinte. Have to learn, because you can't really, it's not recommended in France to change anything on the menu. French are very proud of their meals. They don't want to change anything. This is why it is the way it is. So I have to say, I'm pregnant, so can I please have it well done? They give you a
pass.
Yeah, they give me a pass because you would never ask for a steak well done here. So that was amazing. I mean, it was an incredible meal. Did you enjoy your birthday dinner?
I did. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And then after you've eaten the most epic meal, we had to go adventure. We had to go to the Gorges du Verdon, right?
Well, we slept.
Yeah, we didn't go straight there. We wanted daylight. We wanted sunlight to enjoy the blue water. But I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was incredible. It's about 20 to 30 minutes from Moustiers. We got the car, we drove out of town, and we went to the Verdon Gorge.
Well, before we did that, this is like French hiking. So you get up, you go to the boulangerie, you get a cafe, you get either a fougasse, which is kind of like a calzone, or I think we got like pain au chocolat, and maybe a quiche.
Sandwiches.
Yeah. Get that, and then hit the road, and then head down to that emerald green water. And that's where we can actually do some of the hiking.
So we strapped Scotland into a baby carrier, which I think we need to upgrade to a hiking backpack at this point because it is not comfortable to carry her in that anymore. And I think that was also my last time carrying her in a hiking sack for now with my growing belly. But we went hiking. And I mean, the gorge is rugged and beautiful, and it forces you to confront nature at its rawest. And it's stunning. There's so many trails around there. There's different lakes that you can choose from. It doesn't have to be the actual Verdon Gorge, but there's surrounding lakes in the area. And we went on all trails and picked something that was not too challenging, since we did have the little one, and something that was easy to access in a car. We had a great time.
We did that. I mean, it's kind of a choose your own adventure place. We did that. We also went on the paddle boats.
That's so great.
Is just it's such a tourist thing to do, but it's so much fun once you get out there. Yeah, you get out there. And the one thing we failed to do, well, it's okay for you. I mean, you wouldn't have done it, but we should have brought a bottle of wine and like a full picnic and like just enjoyed it.
Well, it would have been great to just bring cured meats and unpasteurized cheese and wine, but maybe next year. But yeah, I think so. You can go down to the lake, and all of the paddle boats are first come, first serve. There's also electric boats that are really first come, first serve. They were all sold out. But we got a paddle boat and went out onto the water, and we were there in late September. So the paddle boats were aplenty. But if you're going there in July or August, you need to get there early. Like, it opens at 10 typically. Check the times just to be sure. Get there early to make sure you can get one of those paddle boats, because it gets really crowded there in the summer. So we went out. I think it was, did we go out in the afternoon?
We went in the afternoon, but how about the paddle boats? Like the size of them?
They're large and in charge. I mean, I think that could have sat maybe 6 people.
That maybe. Yeah, I don't know if it'd be 6 adults, but definitely a full family.
Yeah, so Scotland sat up front with her life vest on, and Scott and I were pedaling, and then eventually you were just pedaling, and Scotland and I were sitting. And we had some pain au chocolats on the boat. Pain au chocolat, plural. And it was amazing. It was a great time. People were swimming, even in late September. We did not jump in, but it's one of the most beautiful places in France by far.
Yeah. So after your wild gorge adventures, Moustiers-Sainte-Marie is the perfect place to come back to and slow down again. You might want to visit Notre-Dame de Beauvoir Chapelle, perched high above the village. It's a steep walk, but the view up there is amazing. This is just this beautiful little, I think it's a 12th century church that's built. It's built basically below, or the star hangs right above it in the valley between the two hills right above the town. You'll see rooftops of Moustiers and the endless stretches of lavender fields beyond. It's a place of quiet reflection where you feel connected to something older, something deeply rooted in this rugged part of Provence. Maybe you'll finish the day at a local wine bar, grab a glass of something rustic, provincial. The wine is crisp, floral, the kind of thing that makes you close your eyes after the first sip. You might sit there in the shadows of the cliffs, listening to the sounds of the village slowly winding down for the night. You guys might have realized Colette's a good writer. She's a very emotional writer. She knows how to pull on the heartstrings a little bit.
There you go. Thank you. That's very sweet.
It's a place that I mean, so often we are go, go, go in our lives. I mean, there's just the noise, there's the physical noise, especially where we live now, of like the city, the cacophony of just the cars, the people. It's just so much. And then I just think it's healthy. I mean, we're used to this for millennia as humans, to just be out in the wild and not have so much stimulation. And it's just so much decompression. It's like the pressure valve is able to release when you come to a city like this.
I think it's also one of those places that just seemed like we discovered it. I know we didn't. I know it's been discovered and written about and all of that, but it still holds that je ne sais quoi, that special feeling that it wasn't too crowded. And I'm sure people will be like, yeah, until you ruined it on your podcast.
Yeah. Or go in the summer.
Or go in the summer. Go in the off season. Go when it's less crowded. Go in the fall. I bet you the winter is even so charming with snow-topped mountains. And it's so special. And it's one of those things, it's not a big city like Paris. It's not even a medium city like Bordeaux or Aix. It's this tiny town, and you have to, it's not easy to get to. You know, it's like an hour on a windy road from any city. And so I feel like that's part of the journey there, is you have to want to go there. You have to seek it out. There's no buses that are going into that town. They park, if there is a bus, it has to park outside because it's not going to fit on those tiny roads. So the way it's built, the way the city is built, the town is built, lends itself to preserving it in a special way, because it can't allow these throngs of people and these boatloads of people to come in. It's just not possible.
Yeah, and if you do go there and you're spending a few days, I recommend bringing your own groceries because there's just not a lot of stores and shops.
Yeah, you have to go out of town. I mean, there's a small grocery store that's open for a few hours a day. I think every time we tried to go, it was closed.
Yeah. So
it's special.
If you can tell, we loved Moustiers.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Close place in our heart. So, all right. Next week. A bientôt.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're learning from and or enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. These are great free ways to support this podcast. Also, please subscribe to this podcast on both Spotify and Apple. On both of those platforms, you can leave us up to a 5-star review, which would help us out greatly. Please also check out the sponsors mentioned in today's episode. That's the best way to support this show. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please put those in the comment sections in YouTube. And yes, we do read all the comments.